Hey y'all, Chris Bassett here, and I'm going to be doing an acrylic pour today. I'm going to show you what tricks and tips I like to use. Let's get into it. I started acrylic pouring back when I wanted to decorate the house, put up a couple of paintings around the house. They also work great as gifts, but more recently I've been selling artwork on SachiArtwork.com. I'm making like $500 a painting, so this can be a lucrative way to make a little bit of money on the side. I've been buying a lot of my supplies from Hobby Lobby, the Artist Loft brand. They come in packages of like 6 for the canvases, and then you can buy different acrylic colors, and then also you want a couple gallons of glue. You'll also want a container to mix the paint and pour it. I use the red party cups from Walmart, as well as like some plastic spoons to stir it together. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be using 3 colors, red, yellow, and black. I typically go in like sets of 3. It seems to create the best looking painting, but feel free to play around with it and experiment and see what works best for you. One of the red party cups is generally enough material to cover the 10-inch by 20-inch canvas. So I'll be using 3 cups and adding a dollop of each paint into the cup. Obviously, the more paint you add to the glue mixture, the richer the colors will be. Since it is an acrylic pour, we're going to want the viscosity of the liquid to be more runny. So we're going to add water, but not too much. The idea here is to add a little bit of water and stir it up, and then you want to see the consistency. You want it to be thin enough that it kind of drips off your spoon or your whatever you're using to stir it, and it's more uniform in pattern. That way when you pour it onto the canvas, it kind of spreads out. This is also a good time to add any additives you want to the paint. Silicone oil is great. You add that in there and it kind of diffuses the water and the paint, and then you can apply heat with like a hair dryer or a heat gun and bring further colors to the surface of the painting. So once everything's to your liking, go ahead and repeat the similar steps for the other 2 colors or other colors that you have prepared. Now we're going to take the colors and we're going to layer them in each cup. So we're going to pour like yellow, then black, then red, then yellow, black, red, over and over until you have the 3 cups evenly distributed and are in layers. Now you can pour onto the canvas. And then feel free to experiment with the color combinations, but once you have all 3 cups set up in this fashion, then you're ready to pour it on the canvas. On this piece of artwork, I'm going to be using 3 panels and then arranging them to create one piece of artwork. This is going to get messy, so don't forget to put down some newspaper or plastic or something on the floor or in a big open area. I also like to shim the canvas up higher, because as the paint drips off the canvas, it'll actually glue itself to the floor. So put a little bit of a gap there, that way the extra paint can drip off and onto the plastic. And then here's my secret ingredient, it's Rain-X. Because we mix the paint with water, if you spray the painting while it's still, pouring with Rain-X, it'll displace the water and create like spot-like droplets. You could also mix that in the painting pre-pour. That works as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn the canvas upside down on top of the cup, and I'm going to flip it rapidly. That way it doesn't like slosh around and mix the paint. You can also just pour it out of the cup like you were to just pour like a glass of water. That works as well. But for this painting, I'm going to use this technique. So what I'm trying to do is pull the cup up and then allowing a pattern or some kind of neat visuals to be created in the center of the painting. And then I'm going to rock the canvas back and forth in different directions to get the paint to kind of spread out over top of the canvas and create something visually, interesting. I'm spraying it with the Rain-X now. That way, if the droplets do form, they'll kind of spread out over the painting as it's being poured. Another technique you can use here is called blowing. You can either like put your lips to the paint and then gently blow across it to create wave-like patterns, or use a straw. That also works as well. If you are using the silicone oil, now would be the time to kind of take your heat gun or your hair dryer and slowly and gently get that close, and the silicone bubbles will kind of like pop up to the surface and create like a bubbling effect. Depending on the paint that you're using, if you're using like a metallic, I like to use metallic a lot because of the way it reacts to the sunlight. The paint that you're using, it'll create different visual effects after it dries, and it'll look a lot more interesting. But here I'm just trying to keep as much paint on the canvas as possible as I rock the fluid back and forth. Some of the paint will eventually, drip off the canvas and onto the floor. You can use that paint to cover up the corners that didn't get covered. So I'll just take my finger and dip it onto the paint and then cover up the corners so that the entire canvas is covered. I don't want to mess with the top surface, but these corners and side edges I'll use to kind of cover up and hide the canvas that didn't get touched by paint. And then I'll just repeat this process 3 more times, and then I'll have my 3-paneled piece of artwork. So here it's still wet. It takes about 48 to 72 hours for everything to dry. But yeah, it turned out pretty good, and I like the way it looks so far. Hey, check out this other video right here. Links in the description for the art supplies from Amazon. Check that out. Use my link, no extra cost to you. You can help support the channel. Any questions or comments, put below. Thanks.